Alrighty, this time we will have Metagross. So Metagross was the sixth most used doubles Pokemon in December 2021 with the usage of 19.91. So pretty much every fifth team in MMO Doubles is carrying Metagross, and now we will take a look at why. Yeah, so the first question is what makes Metagross good? Well, it has a very good typing. It is a great switch into rock, ice, psychic, and normal moves, just to name a few, especially against like rock slide from Tranitar or psychic from Reniculus. It's where Metagross is like such amazing switch in. Then it has clear body, which it's first of all it's a physical attacker that cannot be intimidated, but also it's like a very RNG proof Pokemon. Like you don't get accuracy dropped from Muddy Waters, you don't get defense dropped from Crunches, you don't get special defense dropped by Shadow Balls. So that's actually a very useful thing to have. Um, then it has the amazing 600 base stat total as pseudo legendary do. And it does have like a strong neutral attack to pretty much any doubles Pokemon, so it's like never walled by anything. And yeah, I would argue that Metagross is kind of like the jack of all trades Pokemon in doubles. Then you can also like think that is it like but the master of none. Like it has been lately being slightly overshadowed by Scizor as this physical steel type physical sweeper. But it has its traits, like the defensive bulk that Metagross has is actually superior to Scizor, and there are some Pokemon that actually Metagross is just simply better against, such as like Mienshao and Crobat combination. And in general, it just serves as a defensive pivot more reliably than Scizor does, but it maybe lacks the same offensive output. Then, what challenges does Metagross face? Well, it is even though it has like overall great typing, it is still weak to like two of the most common spammables dual target attacks, which are Heat Wave and Earthquake. And these are like very common coverage moves as well, which means that a lot of the time opponent will have some kind of a move to hit Metagross, but usually for not that hard because Metagross bulk is actually like the stats are just so great. So Metagross is like barely ever one hit KO'd by anything, and also like I maybe previously said a little bit that it hasn't doesn't have like a specific real clear role. Like it's great at many things, but like not specifically the best at any specific role. So it has kind of the tendency of falling to kind of irrelevancy. Like you would think, why would I put Metagross when I can put something else that maybe more clearly achieves some goal that I try to have. But it doesn't seem that much of a problem because Metagross is in every fifth team, so it is getting recognized as the absolute powerhouse that Metagross actually is. Then about nature and EVs, um, yeah, as I said, it's pretty much the most diverse doubles Pokemon there is, and it can be tailored to pretty much everything. But as kind of a suggestion, like I would recommend to always use Adamant because it's just you just get the most attack boost and you get the most pressure when it's on the field, and just giving it max attack EVs is also a very good idea. But then the other EVs can be tailored to your needs. A good benchmark that I suggested is that you can try to hit the 101 speed stat, which is always very useful. So if you give Metagross 88 speed EVs, it outspeeds Crobat and Jolteon in Tailwind, which is very useful because Metagross has Zen Headbutt for Crobat and it has Earthquake for Jolteon. So actually outspeeding those things in Tailwind can be very useful. But if you're not playing Tailwind, you can just honestly go for like max HP, and that just does the job just fine. You can also, if you somehow feel like you want to dedicate your Metagross more on like physical defensive side, then you can. It's definitely not out of the question to invest in HP and a little bit on the defense to maybe have a more reliable like counter to, let's say, Tyranitar and Hitmontop or things like that. But in general, I would suggest going for as much attack as your team allows you to. Then the moves, well, the two moves that pretty much every Metagross has are its just main stabs, Meteor Mash and Zen Headbutt. Um, because they're used to basically hit the whole metagame neutrally, and they're like very spammable moves. Like you don't care even if your opponent switches out. Usually they will still do some respectable damage on the next one as well. Then Protect is very useful for positioning. It's doubles. And again, it's a move that I would recommend Metagross to always carry because it's such a target. Like opponent wants it out, um, so you can reposition yourself, or maybe even buy a free turn when your opponent is so concerned about the Metagross that just double targets it, which is actually very common. You will notice when you play Metagross a lot that just simply protecting, you can notice, oh, my opponent actually double targeted my Metagross and I got a free turn. So yeah, it's definitely Protect is worth having. And then the last move, I would say, in Metagross case, there's like not many cases where the fourth move is such a diverse option to have. The most common has been Earthquake. It's just a strong move to hit both targets, especially it's used as a coverage move against opposing Metagross because your stabs actually don't really hurt opposing Metagross, as well as Scizor. So having Earthquake just to hit Steel types. Sorry. Um, but there are other options like Hammer Arm, which is first of all it hits Porygon 2 and Tyranitar very hard, but it also drops your speed. So if you play Metagross in a Trick Room oriented team, you can actually make use of that minus speed you get from a Hammer Arm, which makes it very useful move to basically speed control yourself. Even though like you can use the minus speed as instead of being like a hurtful thing, you can use that as a beneficial thing. Then you also have Ice Punch against Garchomp and Salamence. I would say mostly against Garchomp. Against Salamence, you still are hitting pretty hard with Meteor Mash, but against Garchomp, it can be a very useful thing to catch like a Garchomp off guard. Then I would also say Metagross is one of the only mons that like can actually reasonably use Stealth Rock. Like in doubles, the Stealth Rock in general is not very. It's a little bit passive, and there's not so much switching in doubles to to kind of justify Stealth Rock in lots of cases. But because Metagross actually does so much heavy lifting with like two attacks, and if you're playing like Metagross is such a bulky Pokemon, so you will be pivoting a lot, and if you switch, you're kind of forcing your opponents to switch. So the Stealth Rock can actually be worth it in lots of the matchups. And then lastly, that's also actually a highly used move is Bullet Punch, which gives Metagross both like a hard hitting steel attack and also a priority steel attack, which I mean having priority in many cases can be pretty much game changing. Then about items, surprisingly enough, leftovers is a very common item for Metagross. It's gonna stay on the field for a long time. Usually, it protects often, so you often get quite a lot of leftovers recovery. You can also use citrus perfectly fine as well. It kind of increases the one turn longevity more of Metagross. Then some people use Life Orb to have more offensive punch. Then you have the type gems to kind of have a one-time nuke if you want. And then an interesting option that I'm also actually, according to the usage, is surprisingly popular. Well, not surprisingly, it's a very good item, but you can use White Lens. And one of the main pitfalls of Metagross is that its stabs are actually 90% accurate, and you can kind of counteract that by using wide lens. So that boosts your 90% accurate stabs all the way to 99. So you don't have to get frustrated missing your attacks that much. I mean, in a sense, it reduces the amount of times your Metagross is missing tenfold, if you think about it. It doesn't seem much, but if you think about it that way, it's actually very reasonable. So if every 10th attack you were missing with your Metagross, now you're missing it with every 100 attacks. So that's actually a very reasonable thing to have, and the misses from Metagross can often be like game changing. Like you can often lose to that, which is one of the worst feelings for doubles players, is just missing the game deciding Zen headbutt or something for Metagross. So using wide lens can be actually a very smart option. Then about team synergy, well, Metagross is a common member of rain teams as like the defensive backbone of a rain team, and also the rain helps Metagross, so it basically reduces Metagross fire weakness and only leaves it down to the earthquake weakness. So it makes it improves the Metagross typing even more. But Metagross in general fits lots of kinds of teams. It fits like fast tailwind teams. It even fits trick room teams. It fits rain teams. It's a great mon. You can never go wrong with Metagross, like ever. Like I said, it has a bit of like when you put it on your team, you're like, what exactly is this achieving for me? But the answer is a little bit of everything. Like it's there. It's a physical attacker. It's a defensive backbone. It's just a great mon. You don't. It's so hard to describe Metagross as like a single specific role, but it's just a great mon. That's all I can say about that. And then counterplay, fire and ground attacks as we've discussed. So mons like Chandelure, Garchomp, Rotom Heat, Rotom Wash, and Rotom Mug with Will-O-Wisp and Trick Room Torkoal, I would say, are the main concerns that Garchomp, no, not Garchomp, that Metagross will face. So if you want to team support Metagross as well, you should probably think, how can I keep these things in check. And you can see also one of the reasons why Tyranitar is a common teammate for Metagross is that you have Chandelure, Rotom, Heat, and Torkoal, which are all countered by Tyranitar. So Tyranitar is actually a very good support for Metagross to kind of counter the fire types that are threatening. Then you also need something for Garchomp, but that's I guess that's an issue you have to deal with other mons. But yeah, that's about it about Metagross. Hope it was useful, and I will see you in the next one.